What's going on, everybody? I'm Israel Wright, former Green Beret, and today I'm very excited to be checking out footage of Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. Let's get into it. Yeah, the Xenos. Without mercy. Yeah, the Space Marines, the ultimate warriors of humanity. That's the best we have to offer. Usually deploying in smaller groups, unless a larger force is needed. I mean, you got a couple Space Marines. Usually they have a specific mission within the larger campaign. They're very much special forces, like what I did. I was on a 12-man ODA, and we were not kind of the general infantry. That would be kind of, I guess, the Imperial Guard of the Astra Militarum, and those are kind of like the common troops, the infantry troops. Space Marines would be for some sort of specialized mission. Yeah, Space Marine. Man, it looks like you've got like a jump pack and the hammer. That was kind of an option like for a short time in the game, but it looks like they have different classes that you can play as in the multiplayer in this one. Yeah, the smashing down. I love that area of effect. Space Marine's armor is awesome. It's power armor. I guess they kind of live in it for most of the time. Military doesn't have any power armor. I wish we did. That'd be pretty cool. I guess we would have to be genetically altered to be able to handle something like what they got in Space Marine. I've seen some jetpack that I know a couple of companies have experimented with, but it doesn't really seem all that practical in terms of moving men, weapons, and equipment. I don't know if there'd be any kind of situation where you would have a lone soldier going into some far-flung region and all they got is a jetpack and maybe some power armor or something like that. If it was something like this, that might be a different story, but we're gonna have to wait a couple of millennia for that to show up. There's something about the whole bug and hive mind type of enemy that humanity has faced throughout all these sci-fi games. I love it. We got Tyranids, we got Terminids, we got Zerg. He's got a shield there. Not much use for a shield in the things that I have done in my military career. Usually it's speed, surprise, violence of action, CQB. You got your primary moving through a building, that kind of stuff, flashbangs maybe, but I feel like that's more of a police kind of thing, having a riot shield or something. Yeah, the bolter. Bolter's awesome. I mean, the bolter's the classic weapon for the Space Marine. Fires exploding rocket-propelled rounds. I think they got a bunch of different rounds in the lore. You can have it loaded up with high explosive or incendiary or maybe even stun rounds. Love the scope on that. It's so chunky. I love it. The power of the Space Marine. Man, I love that finishing move. Yeah, getting on top of it. That's awesome. Yeah, Captain Titus, the hero of the first one. So I played the first game. Very exciting. The dots on the forehead, the studs, it's like 100 years. So he's been around for about now 400 years. In the first Space Marine, he had 2. So it's been a while since we've seen Titus. I'm excited to play the single player campaign. The multiplayer looks really fun, but I'm more of a story guy. I want to get back with Captain Titus and see what he's been up to. I miss him. I want to give him a hug. That's another thing I love about it. It's a future setting, but it's super medieval, and there's a lot of throwbacks. I feel like the tanks look like World War I tanks. You get the flamer, the flame units, the flamethrowers. That's like World War II era. And so it's this perfect combination of medieval, fantasy, and future, almost like cyberpunk type stuff. Ah, chaos, traitors to mankind. You got Space Marines that betrayed the Emperor and the Imperium, and now they serve, I guess they serve the Chaos Gods of the Warp. There's a lot of Space Marine units that betrayed humanity, and now they serve the Chaos Gods, like a bunch of punks. My gameplay style, I want to go balanced. If I was in this situation, I'd probably want something like a bolter rifle, and I got a secondary bolter pistol. I think even then I'd have an access to maybe like a chain sword. I'd want to be light and nimble and mobile. When it comes to situations like this, it looks like we're in kind of a swampy forest type area. I know that there's specialized training for that. That's nothing that I ever dealt with. I had a little bit of training kind of in the swamps of North Carolina outside Fort Liberty. Look at that, that's awesome. I love the swarm of the Tyranids. That's cool, they do a good job. This game looks gorgeous, putting you in that environment. I can see how that'd be very intimidating to the average Imperial soldier. But Space Marines, they don't get scared. Oh man, here they come. Yeah, Angels of Death, I love that. Oh man, look at that hand-to-hand combat. I love that. They really do a good job of making you feel like a badass. This is cool. Never get overwhelmed. Body armor is obviously a big deal in this one. I like the finishing moves, yeah! Give you a little energy boost, big slam, area of effect. In a situation where you're outnumbered by a massively larger force, apart from being a Space Marine, just being able to hack and slash your way through, trying to find a defensible position. You want to create a perimeter. If you don't have security, you don't have anything. Cut off as many angles of approach. You don't want to be surrounded on all sides if you can help it. And if you can find a way out, take that way out. If you don't have any support, if you have communications, that's a good thing. If you can call in support, close air support is a huge deal. That's a big advantage I think the US military has. It makes us the kings of the battlefield, you know. Yeah, that attack is so awesome with the hammer, the slam. Oh, looks like the Tyranid's got some sword wielding guys. I'm not too familiar with Tyranids as a species, what their capabilities are, but we see them a lot. You got the xenomorphs from Aliens, you got the Zerg from StarCraft, and so it's overwhelming numbers, it's close-in melee attack, it's that ferociousness that they can bring to the battlefield, which is, it's awesome. It's so great. Oh, wait. Demolition. It's very 18 Charlie, right? I love the specializations in the game. That's very, that's very SF. Special Forces, you'd have the specializations, but you would also do cross-training. So I would get some explosives training, I would get some medic training, and then I would give communications training as well, so that each soldier is more effective by themselves. Because in a 12-man ODA, with a small force like this, like in the game, you need to be as capable in a small unit as you can be, because you don't have those overwhelming numbers. You love the invisibility cloak, very Predator of you. Yeah, oh, if you can land that, that's great. This looks fun. Moving and shooting. That's the thing about the Space Marines. I don't see a lot of like finding cover, covered concealed position. They're pretty good at communication. I feel like Space Marines are trained to work together with their battle brothers, but it's got a lot of standing out in the open, because you're basically a walking tank. Wow, you can shoot them that far away, huh? There's just so many. Oh, they rigged the very 18 Echo, or very 18 Charlie rather, detonating the bridge. I guess you would have to make the tactical decision about whether or not to keep that bridge, if you got to get across it back and forth, or if you got to stop the advance of the enemy. Man, when it comes to a game like this, I don't know that there's much room for actual military tactics. Combat moves fast in this kind of game. Probably resource management, keeping an eye on your health meter. Knowing what your capabilities are, that's universally applicable to real life and to video games. If you know your equipment, whatever your speciality is, if you know how to use that in conjunction with the strengths of your other teammates, you're a better chance at achieving victory in a situation like this. I love the architecture. It's so grandiose, it's so operatic. It's the great cathedrals of Europe combined with the height of the Roman Empire, and then also just kind of the ultimate depravity, because these cities are built up miles and miles and miles on top of each other. So that city probably goes way down to where the actual surface is. Everything in the Warhammer 40k universe is steeped in religious symbology. There's forgotten technologies that are venerated as religious. There's their tech priests, right? They're not mechanics, they're tech priests, and weaponry is held in high honor and high regard, and because they're trying to regain the lost glory of the Imperium of Man. So it looks like we're fighting on a Terran homeworld somewhere. I mean, the universe is vast, and the Imperium of Man stretches across, countless star systems. It looks like there's some sort of Tyranid invasion going on right now. If the Space Marines are here, it means that there's something important that needs to happen, because normally it would be the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard, that would be defending an area, and there's just millions of those guys. They're really kind of the ones that are thrown into the meat grinder in this universe.
Will you give your life in the name of all that is good and pure? In the name of our holy emperor? Sir, yes, sir!
And everything in the universe has to do with supporting the war and winning the war against all the Xenos. So it looks like we're in what would be considered an urban environment. Everything looks like you're in a 14th century cathedral. When you're fighting in civilian areas, the US military is always considerate of civilian casualties, trying to minimize that. So collecting intel is super important. In an urban environment, it's always going to be difficult because, like, for example, in Iraq, we had insurgents were in the populace, they were among the populace, they weren't wearing uniforms, so we had to be very careful about that. Collecting intel is probably one of the most important things that you can do, and then getting reliable intel, which is can be very hard to do. Death to the Xenos for the Imperium. Yeah, take care of him. Oh, it's like a little floating one? I love that. Ah, he ripped his face off. That's what I would do. The Battle Brothers sworn to protect one another and fight alongside one another to the bitter end. That's cool. It's honor, right? It's a kind of a lost art these days. If I had to choose what kind of person to be in this universe, I mean, I'd definitely be a Space Marine because they have the best training, the most brutal training to become a Space Marine. And if I had to choose a chapter, it would probably be Salamanders. I was streaming one day and I asked my community if there were any good guys, right? Because it's a grim, dark universe, right? There's a lot of gray areas and darkness, even when it comes to Space Marines. And they said Salamanders would be the one to pick. Every chapter of Space Marines has their speciality, whether it be tactics or maybe a certain mission set. And Salamanders are known to be a little more compassionate and a little more thinking of like the little guy and protecting the innocent, maybe sacrificing themselves. And that just touched me. I'm a bit of a softie and I like kittens, so probably Salamanders if I had to choose. Hope you enjoyed that, folks. My name is Israel Wright. If you want to catch up with me, go to twitch.tv/myhappyself. You can also catch the Pop Culture Field Manual YouTube as well as My Happy Self YouTube.